It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, February 6th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that honestly is not sure what to make of that All Star weekend, Russ.
I couldn't watch it straight through. I just couldn't.
So much to talk about, plus a preview of tonight's matchup against the Islanders and our Nemesis of the week.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Flyers. You'll keep up to date with our episodes and Flyers news. If you want to ask us questions, you can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. We've got a mailbag coming up this week, so get those questions in. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon today to get started. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well, and you can see our smiling faces. Russ, just one bit of news before we get into the All-Star Game talk. They did find a substitute for Cam York to go to the AHL All-Star Game, and that is Ronnie Attard. So as we are recording this, he and Tyson Forster are headed to the AHL All-Star Game and participating in the skills competition, and the game itself is tonight.
No, that's great. I actually just wrote something about Ronnie Attard that I'll post in a day or two. So I kind of did a deep dive on him and was happy to see that he got voted and he's having a good season. The only thing, Rachel, again, this is going to haunt us. He's fifth in rookie scoring for defensemen in the league. Care to take a guess who's third in rookie scoring for defensemen in the league and hasn't even played nearly as many games and has more points than Ronnie Attard? Care to take a swing at that?
I'm going to say it's David Jiricek, Russ.
David Jiricek.
Oh, God. You know me too well. All right. Heading into the NHL All Star Game, man, Russ, this weekend, discombobulated is the best word I can come up with to describe it, right?
Was there any practice? And I mean practice from everybody. I don't mean just the league. I mean ESPN too. If you're going to have gags to do, you need to have a dry run. It's not like Saturday Night Live just goes up there and says, "Oh, we're going to do this bit," and never practices it. You got to practice all this stuff, and it's just so many things. But as far as the skills competition, we all like the fastest skater. That's fine. I'm not sure I like the idea of them hanging each one like, well, we'll get back to it later. I don't think I love that.
No, that was a terrible decision.
That was a bad idea. But whatever. They held that for ransom. They held the hitting the targets for the accurate shot. That's really good. McDavid shined. That was great. I'm also not going to make the mistake of saying, well, he looks like Messier, because Messier was much older when he did it, but he still did it in great fashion, and that was what you would want from Connor McDavid. A lot of other stuff is head scratching. It really is. Rules were confusing with the goaltender competition. If they're going to golf on a golf course, then just golf. Don't incorporate hockey into it. Just golf. I didn't understand that theory either.
Listen, as a person who pretty much despises golf, and I will absolutely cop to that, them just going to the golf course and doing the bit of the quiet commentary literally put me to sleep. I'm like, this is why I don't like golf in the first place.
I know. It was
dull
bad
on television.
The dunk tank thing wasn't. Yeah, the dunk tank thing wasn't bad, but the problem was you had you only had like two good situations for the whole thing. And one of them was Fox because he hit like the last two and the dunk tank in a row. And so that was like great. But like there were so many misses on that, and it's just like, I don't know, the surfboards. Like,
I
honestly,
liked the surfboards. Honestly,
it was
I liked
okay.
the event. I think they maybe didn't have the right people doing the event, but I think that the event itself, if you're going to try something new, I thought it was actually creative, and I'm glad they took a shot at it like that. We got to see Sidney Crosby dunked in the tank, which I think was really fun.
It was. That
So
was good.
of all of it, I think that at least they tried and it was a good idea. There were some small executional issues with it, but it was just like the rest of it, like you said, with the interrupting of the events and,
ESPN putting their
especially,
golf guy, who very few
oh
people in the
God,
hockey world would even know, on that detail was just clunky, man. It was just
it was
bad.
so clunky. And so there were only really, I would say, in the grand scheme of the skills competition, two good things about it overall. Number one was Sergei Ovechkin.
Sure.
Like,
Slam dunk.
adorable kid.
Mhm.
Love, love, love the Sid Ovi combo
Yep.
with the kid.
Although they can
Ton of,
never,
yeah.
after this weekend with the texting they do and that, they can never push rivalry night again. Like, for years, they tried to pit Ovechkin and Crosby against each other, and even they never bought into it.
Well, at least maybe they could sell it as frenemies, right?
Right, right. That's how you can do it.
And then the other big moment, of course, was Sarah Nurse pulling a
Yeah.
Forsberg on Igor Shesterkin.
And
And
that was legit. That was
it
great.
was completely legit. And the fact that they tried to minimize it in the post game, like, presser,
Yeah, that's
like, oh,
shameful.
maybe he wasn't trying. No, come
That's
on.
shameful. She did
Come
that for
on.
real, and she even did this, which was great. Like, the whole thing was great,
Yeah.
and Shesterkin knew he got beat. Like, he would cop
Yeah.
for that. Like, that, there's nothing wrong with that.
Completely. Completely. So, yeah, I would say, we, Ovechkin, and Sarah Nurse were the highlights of the skills competition.
Yeah, skills was
The
rough, man.
the game or tournament itself was okay. It was
Okay,
fine. It
so here,
was
you gotta stop there. So, they probably should call it a tournament, because what's interesting is they still do call it the All Star Game. But what was interesting was I had to listen to part of it because I was going to somebody's birthday party, a surprise party, and I couldn't be late. So I was listening to it on Sirius. And what Sirius did a very good job of, Steve Coolius and crew did a very good job, was they pointed out that the records they're going to be reading were just for like the last, whatever, 5-6 years of this format. So
mhm,
even they recognize, hey, you can't count all-star records of before and match them up with this because it's only 3-on-3.
right. No, and
But they need to
you
make a
get to play
distinction
multiple
now.
games, right? If you make it to
Right.
the final, you're
But they
in.
need to make a distinction now as far as when they advertise it, because it is no longer an all-star game. It's not a game. It is a tournament. You're right. That's what it is.
Yeah, I also think, like, you miss some opportunities of it being a tournament that versus a full regular game, of having the mic'd up moments and some of the, you have extra time between shifts to interview people at the benches, whereas with fewer guys on the bench, like, the rotation goes a little faster. So I think from an entertainment perspective, there is something that you miss from having it be like a more, like, formalized 5-on-5 game. But I understand why they do it. Like, I think, the first year they did it was something different and new, so it was fun. And 3-on-3 was
Right.
newer then as well.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was good to see Kevin Hayes on a line with Johnny Gaudreau. What
Well,
could have
you could
been.
have seen, yeah, you could have seen that for the next 7 years. People did see that in BC. That certainly was noteworthy. I will tell you what was very clunky though, and again, I have to blame ESPN on just lack of preparation on this. Like, when Emily Kaplan's going to try and yuck it up with players on the bench, know that Nathan McKinnon is not one of those guys. He takes hockey seriously. He was not going to joke around with her. Again, with money on the line too. These guys are just not going to joke around on the bench during the game. They're not going to do it. So you're better off asking them more in-game stuff and let them make a joke if they want. But if you try and add a joke to it, it's going to fall flat. And that's exactly what was happening.
Yeah, I would say PK Subban was the only one in the broadcast who really understood what the
Yes.
assignment was. Honestly, he
Well,
was
again, the
by
problem
far
is
the best.
Yeah, the problem is like Chris Chelios hasn't played an All-Star game in 20 years. Mark Messier hasn't played an All-Star game in 15 years. Like however many long years for both of them. They're so far removed from it that even when they talk about memories of it, it's not good enough. Like they need to have younger guys like PK Subban doing this broadcast. And Sean McDonough, I can't tell you how many complaints I got, but the biggest one I have, me personally, was they're getting ready to start the game. You have Shesterkin against Allmark. And they say, well, Shesterkin doesn't have the numbers he did last year, but he's an all-star, and he's going up against Linus Ullmark, who's the Vezina, runaway Vezina candidate right now. And I'm thinking, why would you minimize this guy playing who's an all-star? It doesn't matter if his stats aren't as good this year as last year. He's an all-star. You just minimize the guy. What are you doing?
Yeah. It was bizarre, to say the least. I would say, again, the highlights was having Sid and Ovi play together.
Yes.
What dynamic play. That was a lot of fun. And then, of course, the Tkachuk brothers playing together. And
we'll play together someday. It's the guarantee in this league.
And, of course, Matthew getting the MVP at home. Like, it was just, that part of it was delightful. And the I would say that one of the highlights of the broadcast was the Tkachuk's mother.
That was great.
So I love to see. Yeah.
But you know what else was good too? And I don't know how much it got broadcast, but I saw the quotes. Like Kevin Hayes is there with his nephews. They want to see Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby understands the importance of them seeing him in the locker room, and he could see the excitement in their eyes, and he talks about that, and he knows that what he's doing is a good thing, and he's totally fine with it. And it's like, again, if you're a Flyers fan, you hate Sidney Crosby, you can't.
No, he had a great weekend. He really did.
Even at this advanced age for him, he's just, he's still the class of the league. Like he is.
Yeah, maybe off the ice, let's say.
Right. That's fine.
Well, next year in Toronto, as was announced, and there should be, it being the quote unquote center of the hockey world. Let's see what they can do if they think they can do better than Florida.
I think they will.
The gauntlet has been thrown.
I'll tell you why. You know why they're going to do better than Florida? Because they're going to keep it inside in hockey at the rink instead of doing it at the beach and all these other cockamamie places. They won't be trying that. They're not going to go to a mountain. They're not going to do any of that. They're going to keep it all localized.
Mark my words, there will be something at the top of the CN Tower. Okay.
Yeah, probably. You're probably right.
All right. We are going to switch gears and preview tonight's matchup against the Islanders coming up next.
Today's episode is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I started using Athletic Greens because I wanted better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system, and hated taking pills and vitamins, and I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, and focus. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Athletic Greens contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and vitamins. To look out for your health, to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Russ, we get right back to it tonight against the New York Islanders. Of course, the biggest Islanders news was trading for Bo Horvat. We mentioned it briefly last week on the show, but just curious what your take is on what the Canucks got in return. And do you think, that was a significant loss for the Islanders?
I mean, it was, because Achu Ratu, who, again, even pronounced his name a different way again, like a third different way, but then let everybody know it doesn't matter to him. So you could just call him whatever you like. He he's going to be a third line center in this league. He could be a second line center. If he gets a little faster, he could be a real weapon. He's got a great shot. He knows how to play in the offensive zone. He's got some physicality. So this is a guy the Islanders should never have traded. And I get it.
Yeah.
You've got Bo Horvat long term, but this is the kind of guy that, you can't really. They hit a home run in the draft on him, and then they just, they ship him out. And I still think Beauvillier, playing with the right players, can get back to his 20 goals at least. And that's a lot, man. I get it. Bo Horvat's a really good player. He's coming off a career year. He's going to play center, which now they have too many centers again, but that's fine. He's going to help him. I don't know if he could help him enough on this stretch run. I know Islander fans now, for some reason, are expecting more trades. I don't know how much more you want to trade. Like, it's just, but we'll see. But in the meantime, he'll help them down the stretch here, but they're behind the 8 ball. Like, they do have what you would call an easier schedule to start, but we'll see. Like, the Flyers, if they come out this game like gangbusters, they're going to give the Islanders trouble.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. And, the Islanders are still a step behind the Caps and Pens right now. And, they're fighting to have a playoff chance even.
Right.
So making a big deal like this in this spot, I mean, I can understand why Lou wants to do that thing, but at the same time, man, big risk with what they gave up.
Huge
In terms of building to the future as well, not just thinking about this year. And maybe they think it's this year or nothing, but they have had, a decent stretches during this season, but leading up to the All-Star break, they won 2 games, but were 3-5-2 in their last 10. So a little shaky. The Flyers have not seen the Islanders since that home and home in November. Feels like forever ago, and just yesterday at the same time, where the Flyers and Islanders split those 2 games. And, I'm really just not sure what to make of this Islanders team, even with Bo Horvat as your 1C.
Right. I mean, it's going to take a little while for him to click with players. You've shaken up the lineup now, putting him in it. You are waiting to see. I'm assuming Noah Dobson will play. We'll see. That's another important guy.
He was injured before the break, but they had just listed him as being out for the break. So he could return against the Flyers tonight. But other than that, it's just Cal Clutterbuck on IR.
Yeah, which that's not going to kill him. But the interesting thing was, who will they put in net? Will they give Sorokin an additional day off? Will they put Varlamov in that? Or will they put Sorokin in because points are so precious? If they put Sorokin in, I think that does help the Flyers a little bit, because, look, guys are human. He's doing all this traveling, and then he's going to get right back in net. I know they're great athletes, but still, it doesn't mean he might not be a little off his game, and he could be.
Yeah, although you could say the same for whoever the Flyers put in net, which will be Carter Hart, because I can't imagine.
But he didn't have to travel a lot. He just maybe had to take a flight from Canada back, or maybe he stayed in the city. It's not the same. Like, the All-Star thing, it's a lot. It can mentally wear you out with all the family, and you got to, pay attention to all of that and everything. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
No, it's a fair point. And
he had to babysit for Sergei too, right? So
yeah, that is true. I would say, like, one of the, I wouldn't say it's a huge surprise, but at least from an Islanders perspective, I would not expect Brock Nelson to have been their top scorer at this point for the season. I might have guessed Barzal, but, that made him an all-star. Obviously, he had a fun weekend there, as we saw. He's got 46 points. And so, and he's a guy that bites the Flyers, let's be real.
Yeah, I was always a Brock Nelson supporter. I was there when he got drafted. Matter of fact, Kevin Connolly interrupted my question to Brock Nelson so he could shake his hand, and then looked at me and said, "Hey, sorry about that," and then walked away, because if you remember, he was at the Islanders draft table that year. So and Kevin Connolly from different things. Now I'm forgetting his movie, his TV series on HBO. But people will figure it out. Now it's really going to bug me. Anyhow, Entourage. It's Entourage. Yeah. So he I've known Nelson a long time. And this is definitely a career year for him, but he's always been good, has always been a decent goal scorer, a guy who could play in the crease, and has always killed the Flyers. That's true.
Yep. Absolutely. So it should be an interesting matchup. Torts shuffled the lines a little bit in practice yesterday with, having Frost centering Farabee and Brown and moving Cates up with
Why? Why would you do that?
And Konechny. Yeah. I don't
See,
know.
are they going to play 7 defensemen again? Really? Is this really what they're going to do? Like, they've had 5 days to figure this out, and
No, they're putting Bellows on that.
They are putting Bellows in. Okay,
on the fourth line with Wade Allison and Nick Delorier.
I'm even wondering why is Allison on the fourth line right now. He's actually performing better than that.
I know.
That's where Brown should not be
thing.
moved up in the lineup. Like, I don't understand what Torts is doing. I think he's trying to get him to fill the role of somebody like who's filled the role in the past for him, but Brown can't play up like that. Like, and again, Brown, this isn't going to help you in the future. Like, some of these things are puzzling to me.
Yeah, it's a really interesting switcheroo that he had at practice. We'll see if that plays
if it
out
actually happens.
If it actually happens or not. But if so, maybe we'll have to change what our nemesis of the week is after the game. We'll find that out when we recap the game on tomorrow's show. But we will talk about who our nemesis is coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. This year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. I would hope it would be a Philadelphia Eagles start scoring that first touchdown. And so that's the bet I would make in the Super Bowl. But you can do it all on the FanDuel Sportsbook app, which is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get your winnings paid instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Russ, we always love having our nemesis of the week. It allows us to talk about who or what in the NHL is bothering us the most from a Flyers perspective or just from a hockey perspective in general. Last week, when we were getting into the All-Star break, we talked about, keeping momentum for the Flyers during this break, and also, having little to no NHL to watch for the week. It was a very light week, and so I kind of missed the flurry of games that we usually get. So glad to have some of that back this week. I think for me right now, my nemesis for the Flyers is managing this team heading into the trade deadline. We mentioned on Friday's show when we did kind of a intro to the trade deadline season and what it meant for the Flyers. And, this is a delicate time on this team. And there's so much that could happen here. And there are questions like if the team is, I can't believe we're saying this, too successful, how do they handle the trade deadline, and getting the most value in return for some of the guys that are expected to be traded? Like, when do you make those deals versus if the team is winning and the coach is saying, don't trade my guys, like how are they going to do that? And so I think that's really what the nemesis is for me, is how is Chuck Fletcher going to manage all of this over the next month?
So my nemesis is going to be ESPN in general. So ESPN in general, everybody was excited because they're like, oh, look, hockey's going back to ESPN. But is ESPN, now that we're like, a year and change later, are they actually better than NBC as a partner? My answer is no, for a couple of reasons. Ratings are down 21%. You could, Gary Bettman could say whatever he wants about that, citing ESPN Plus and all these other things. There's reasons why attendance is down 21%. viewership, I should say, on the network, and that is their shows aren't great. The people calling the game, people in the studio, we've all had certain complaints about that, and we've voiced them over time. The WNBA is very close to the NHL in viewership on ESPN. Now, I think that's great for the WNBA, and I think it's horrible.
Well, it's a good product. The WNBA is amazing basketball. So.
Yes, but I do think it's part of being trapped on ESPN as like an extra sport because they wanted to fill ESPN Plus, and I think that's the part that like they basically lured the NHL over like a moth to a flame, offered them that money, but now they are trapped. And, for your couple of moments on ABC a year, you were getting a lot more coverage on NBC a year for the NHL, which was better ratings. And I'm going to tell you, NBC did a better job, and I think we're seeing it now.
Yeah, I mean, I can see what you're saying. I think part of what's missing for me with ESPN is the lack of cohesive ancillary content. Right, where I just feel like there isn't as strong a connection between what they're writing on the website and, extra video content. They are doing some of it. I'm not saying it's non-existent. I'm just saying it's not as engaging as maybe I would have liked it to be. Not enough sort of behind the scenes of the NHL, which I think they really could have innovated more. But there are some good things as well.
Sure, I'm not saying it's all bad, but
yeah.
But I'm just saying, in the end, I think NBC did a better job up to this point with the NHL.
Yeah, it's just some of the people they had doing those games were so egregious that it was like a painful broadcast to watch. And and I think overall the ESPN team they have doing the broadcasts is better. Obviously, still some people that I don't love, but at the same time, like I love Emily Kaplan between the benches.
Sure, me too.
And there's some really good things. So. I think there should be a back to the drawing board approach this next off season and really see what they can do to enhance that broadcast relationship and figure out how to get better hockey content out there.
There's a lot more hockey content out there. When you go from the skills and you quickly switch to like top rank boxing and there's no like, that's it. Show's over. See ya, hockey fans. That kind of stuff. It doesn't give hockey fans a reason to hang around. And that's, for me, that's an issue. I know they have some secondary shows with Linda Cohn and they all do great things. But like you said, none of it seems to seamlessly fit together. Like it all seems disjointed.
Right. Yeah. And I would say there's also some really great content creators, like on TikTok, for instance, who are doing incredible, analysis and answering fan questions just about the basics of the game in a really smart, engaging way. I follow quite a number of them, and it's been fun to see some of these voices emerge. And I hope they can figure out a way to integrate more of that in a way that feels authentic to the content and the TikTok style platform. But, we'll see what they can do moving forward. Speaking of looking to the future, that brings us to our Flyers fun thing. And one of the things that I have been asking for on Al Gore's internet since it was announced is the Seattle Kraken mascot, Bowie, who I am fond of. I would like Bowie and Gritty to do a heist movie. And I feel like we're getting closer to this heist movie because they did a joint Instagram post, which is something you can do. It can come from 2 accounts. Right. And they're doing a little dance together during the mascot section of the All Star Game. And
do you want them to do the kind of movie where they're shackled like together by the legs?
Job. Yeah, sort of like an Italian Job.
Oh, okay. You want it to be like that. You want it to be like a scheming one, not one where they're stuck with each other and they're beating each other up along the way. I think it's better I think it's better if they're shackled together for like a day. And trying to escape the law. Yeah.
I'm just saying the seeds of the relationship are there. So give this to me, Seattle Kraken and Philadelphia Flyers.
Right. The 2 most grotesque mascots in the NHL. Got it.
Yes. They need to pull off a heist. All right. That will do it for today's show. We will be back tomorrow to break down tonight's game against the Islanders. We will have our Phantoms check in. Was a fun weekend for them heading into the AHL All Star break. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So send in your mailbag questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail, or you can comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.